executive support is non-negotiable. Like it needs to be there. Like if you want like a full transformation, you need executive support. And it could be from your head of data or director of data and analytics. It could be from your head of product, head of technology, etc. But they need to be convinced about this. If you are an individual and you don't have this executive support, my advice would be to start very small in your team, what you can do in the next couple of weeks to go through this way of working, right? When it comes to data ownership, in these growing companies, right, the end state should be the cross-functional team to own both the transactional data and the analytical data.
Hello, and welcome to the AI and ML conversations with myself, Yavor Botev. Today, I am bringing you an episode I'm quite excited about. I have with me Xavier Gumara Rigol, who is currently head of data at Manychat, which is a leading chat marketing platform. But the main reason I want to chat with Xavier is his articles and his views on the interplay of the data and product functions in a company, and his take on what improvements we can make around the data function. And I know he's currently working on a book on these topics, which we'll surely touch on. Xavier has a decade of experience as an engineering manager in companies like Oda, Adevinta, and Shipte. And in addition, he also has a few years of experience as a university instructor, which I also found very curious. So yeah, Xavier, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Yes, same with me. I, really the reason I found you was by reading your posts on the topics of data and product, and I found these very interesting, and so I'm also very glad that you've agreed to participate. I always like to start the conversations with a bit of a personal discussion, just to get to know you, and of course for the audience to get to know you as a person. And one of the things I noticed in your experience is that you have this theme going on. You have your particular focus area, it seems. You've always had, most of the time, I would say, you had positions in fields like business intelligence and analytics and also product. So can you talk to me a little bit about how this interest arose? Was it something intentional or did it just happen? Yeah, I'm curious to know about this.
Good point. Yeah, thanks. Well, actually, when I was studying, I studied computer science. And then I think we had like one or two subjects that touch upon analytics, business intelligence, data warehousing, a lot from the technical perspective, like dimensional modeling, star schemas, these type of things. And it's something that, I don't know, it kind of raised an interest in me. I knew that I wanted to go abroad to study. I did that. And then when I came back and was time for looking for my first role in an organization, had like, do I want to become a Java developer or do I want to go into like this data field? And at the end, like I tried to apply to positions that had this data flavor, and one of the best experiences I had was like this consultancy, or I joined a consultancy company where I gained a lot of skills and knowledge about data. And because in the 3 years I was there, I got to do like a lot of projects and talking with a lot of people and solving a lot of problems with data. This was like 2011, 2013. So like the tools that we were using there at that time were not existing anymore. But it was like it built my foundation on how to work with data successfully and build dashboards, build machine learning models that people were going to use. Because in a consultancy, like if your client is engaged, the project can go like very well and you will be even like doing a lot more than you would do maybe in a company, or like if you work in the company itself, right? So I learned a lot there. And then at some point I was a bit tired of this consultancy job and not owning the things that I was doing. So I started to look for other opportunities. And then I was already like in the field, right? So it was like I'm kind of a BI, business intelligence expert. I have a lot of expertise on data modeling. I liked discussing about data models and how we are going to organize this table and the flow of the data, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, I keep continuing looking for positions that were related to that. Spend a few more years on hands-on on different projects, and then I think it was 2016 or so, like I started managing BI teams, and then I went through this transition where BI teams or BI engineers, we transformed into data engineers when like big data appeared, S3 appeared, Hadoop, Spark, and on all this, right? So like I lived the transformation from BI to data engineering. And then since then, I've been managing different shapes and sizes of platform teams from BI, ML, master data teams, experimentation platform teams. And I'm comfortable now with a manager position, helping people to develop and grow into the data field. Just I think that also like all this knowledge and all this journey throughout these almost 15 years, it's what made me also like write this book, because I felt that I needed to do something with this knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think you've had a long experience, and you mentioned some of the transformations that this role, or rather this function, has taken. And yeah, there's still a lot of unanswered questions about how teams should collaborate and what's the best way to do that. Yeah, we'll touch upon this. And one of the other thing I wanted to ask you about was what's with you being university instructor? Like, why did you decide to do it? Is it something that you enjoy on the side? What's the story there?
Yeah, it's something that I enjoy on the side. I always like to read, write, and teach, right? So this is something that when I was younger, and now I have a small kid, and it's a bit more complicated to have time for these type of things. But before it was like people that know you say, "Hey, I'm teaching this course. Do you want to help?" And then I started doing that. It's like, okay, this is something that I enjoy. And then I was like actively applying for positions. I got like a few of them. So and mostly also like from my university years, I still know people that also they know that I am in the data field, and they say, "Hey, do you want to give a data course, let's say, to my students, etc." So this is how it all started a bit. I enjoyed it for several years, and it's something that I recommend everyone to try, because I think that it puts yourself in a different perspective. It's like when you really have to explain something to someone, you learn it like a second time, or like so. Yeah, it's something that I really enjoyed, but now as a like I don't have the time to focus on everything, so I stopped for a while.
Yeah. That's it's a nice kind of desire to have, and it's also a good function to kind of fulfill in the society, right? Like spreading the knowledge and helping younger people learn.
And you meet
Think
a
one
lot
of
of people also, like for example, like because now when I'm hiring or etc., it's like sometimes like people reach out, hey, I'm interested in you. You were my teacher.
Yeah.
Or if I remember like somebody specifically, okay, this person would fit this role. It's like your network increases a lot, and you never know what's going to happen in the industry, right? So it's good to keep these connections. And yeah, I'm very like sometimes these things have happened, right? People applying to jobs in my current company or previous companies that they were students of mine. It's like a way of giving back also, because some people did that for me, so why not doing for others?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. And one thing I wanted to mention is that I've also considered being a university instructor. One of the main reasons that kind of stopped me doing that is the reach I would have. I thought with another medium, like YouTube podcast or YouTube videos, the reach would be much higher. But then I always had this, voice in my head, like, what if should I maybe join this nice university? Like actually in Bulgaria now we have very interesting institute on focusing on AI called Insight, and it's really developing quite rapidly I think it was founded 3 years ago and has become one of the top EU institutions. I don't know actually if I have the skills to be an AI researcher, but at least I've thought about the idea, hey, maybe I should join these guys somehow.
Yeah, maybe one advice that I didn't realize at the time when starting. I think that is similar with jobs or in other cases, but like the first training opportunity I got was not the one that I wanted, right? So, but it says like, I'm going to do it anyway because at least I know that the training opportunity that or the teaching opportunity that I wanted would not be given to me if I didn't have teaching experience, right? So it's kind of like I need to build a curriculum on the teaching side if I want to do more of this or like do something like more face-to-face or in known universities, etc., etc. So it's like, okay, let's build a muscle of teaching. And then at some point I got like opportunities that were much more interesting and related to what I was doing, like teaching more like data management and data governance, these type of things to people, which is something that I like more than teaching how to do an ETL or like a dashboard, which is where I started, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You have to start from somewhere indeed. But yeah, like I think nowadays we also have a lot many opportunities. Like you can maybe 20, 30 years ago, people couldn't just move freely and change jobs at their whim or work remotely for a company based, on the other side of the world. So there are definitely kind of maybe too many opportunities that you can choose from. And sometimes that leads to like a decision paralysis, like paralysis analysis. But starting from somewhere and iterating, it's probably the best way to do it. I guess this is also kind of what you probably you've already gave this kind of advice that you need to start somewhere and you need to learn by doing, and you need to build your credibility in the field, and then you can move to maybe what you really like.
Yeah, that's one
Yeah.
path.
Yeah. And did you
Now in this day and age, there might be like multiple ways of no, because the industry is completely different. Online courses, you can do your own. You have the problem of distribution and marketing there, right? So you have to build a network or then join somebody like a bigger organization too that has this marketing and distribution already sorted out.
How have you been working remotely for companies for most of your career, or have you been working hybrid? Because I just mentioned this kind of topic that there are nowadays many opportunities that you can find as a professional, and a lot of them are remote.
So I mostly work on site. Like before the pandemic, like it was on site with a few days at the office, at the uh, home if you need it. Then I had a couple of 2 years and a half of full remote experience at Oda from 2022 to last year. I think that in that position, I was like a very specific position because I was manager of the experimentation platform, and they hired me like very specifically because they didn't find the role in Oslo. It was a Norwegian-based company. So for me, in that case, it was like because the position is so specific that they were able to, or they were willing to hire remotely for a handful of these positions. It's not that everyone could work remotely. And then after that, I spent some time writing the book, and then when the book was finished, I started working again, which at Manychat, which is the company I work for now, and here we have an office in Barcelona, which is where I'm based, and we go to the office like 3 to 5 days a week, actually. So my team is quite proactive, and we go to the office very often, and I really liked it. After this period of being fully remote, I really liked it to go back to the office and have discussions on site. We have people in other offices also in Amsterdam, etc. But and so some interactions and happen through the screen. And if I have a lot of meetings with people in Amsterdam, on one day I stay at home. But I enjoy being at the office.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. Interesting to hear that. Well, nice to hear that you like working in the office. I think different people, obviously have different views, and it really depends on the I would say on the individual. Some people prefer to focus maybe without any distractions. Any people like making coffee or
Hmm.
eating an orange or something like this, but others like the energy of the office, and that's fine. I think in that respect companies should be more flexible, like more accommodating to whatever works best for the individual. But yeah, just
I
as
think
a
that also, yeah, but I think that also like it's a part of our responsibility. And I say this as a manager to my
Mm,
direct report is like, you own your calendar. In some companies, like we had like a Tuesday is a focus day, or Tuesday and Thursday are focus day, and then on Monday you have the team meetings, etc. It's like the company is giving you this, use it, right? So if somebody is scheduling a meeting with you on a Tuesday, say no. It's like
uh-huh.
it's a focus day, right? So you have to be working on your focus stuff. And me as a manager, I have these moments
Mm,
where I have to, like I'm not all the day in meetings, but this is because I protect my calendar. So it's like I'm
yeah.
usually like working best on like things that I need to think of or write on the morning. So I block my mornings. That's my focus time every day, because I know that also as a manager, I cannot afford to block a full day
Mm,
without meetings. So it's like, okay, mornings or like huge part of the morning is my focus time. Then
hmm
I do my work, focused work there. And then meetings come after that, no, after lunch, etc. And I think that these simple things we don't do enough individually, and I think that people should be more actively doing that, because it's where you really protect your time. and
Yeah.
and either if you are at the office or at home, I still need to have this system, right, in my calendar. So that's
Yeah.
what I would recommend also people doing, and thinking about, like, this is important.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely the case. I've also found it as we talked briefly about this before starting the podcast. But I'm also a morning person, and I really prefer to have my deep work in the morning. And I have considered on actually many occasions to literally block off the morning hours for that. But I don't know what's I think that sometimes that hasn't worked, or like, people start
Hmm.
putting meetings on there, and then for myself, I haven't found the right balance. But in general, I really like your advice to know what your important priorities are. Like deep work is definitely important, and try to prioritize this over some things that might not be as important. And that's, I guess, up to the individual to decide. But so I wanted to also move forward to the I guess the meat of our discussion, which would be the data and product functions. And we briefly touched on that throughout your career you've worked first as a consultant, and then um, had positions related to analytics and business intelligence. And how did you start developing your views on data and product and how they can work better together?
I think that it happened when I was working at Shipstead, which later I transitioned into Adevinta. I spent eight
Hmm
years working in the same company, and it was during this transition from well, we started using like big data platforms, S3 for the storage, or
hmm
Redshift, and this and Spark, with PySpark and Scala. And it was like this boom of big data and big data technologies, but it was like kind of for the purpose of doing big data, right? It's like we don't know what we are trying to solve. We just now we can ingest our clickstream data, or like the clicks and the page views that our users generate. Let's use these technologies, and we will figure it out. And it
hmm
was very problematic, because on one hand, we had like the big data platform that it was consuming all the events and all the data.
hmm
It was kind of a black box. It's like how things are done there, right? And how do I use this data? Like, where do I find it? Like, how do I access these like big amounts of data? Like, no, like notebooks were not even, people was not familiar with notebooks. We didn't have good technology that could query data in notebooks or through notebooks, etc. And so that's on one hand, and then which is more from the data engineering perspective, right? But on the data analysis and the machine learning side, it was like, okay, like now everybody is building personalized products, right? So every product should have like a recommended for you page or something like that. I was working on the second-hand marketplaces kind of industry, right? So like this industry went from a second-hand adverts in the newspaper into the online world, right? And like there was a static page of items of like that you could search for, etc. But there was no recommended pieces for you based on your interest or whatever. Like, so we were starting doing that, and people were demanding more and more. So at the end, I think that there were two bottlenecks. Like one is on the engineering side, from the technical perspective, like how do we discover and access this data that we have, and how do we query it? And then from the analytics and machine learning side, it was like, I need to be closer to the business because they know what they are, what problems people is having. They know how it needs to be built, what features that we need to try or test, etc. And we need the data to do that. And the data, I can't find it. So we started building these data organizations that were like departments on its own, and the business was like not working on the same at the same page. So we started like, okay, let's embed a data scientist into this business team, and then have a project for a quarter, and let's see how this goes. And then after this quarter, we dismantle the team, or dismantle the squad, and these people goes back and works on another project for another part of the business that also needs data science for the next quarter, right? And I think that killed us, and I think it killed us and killed everyone that was growing and using the same formula, like this centralized data teams. And I think that we realized about that. And in parallel, there was also this data mesh concept appearing, that was like more on distributing the responsibilities, embedding people in the business, like having a small teams responsible end to end. And without the article, like before the article appeared, we were already doing that at Adevinta, because it was like, this is the only way that it's going to work, right? So on one hand, what we did is, on the technical side, we hired a data modeler, and we said, okay, let's organize better our data. Let's document our data sets. Let's simplify the access. Let's make the data available in SQL, not in PySpark, right? So we did that, and we treat the data as a product. And then this was something that it was very well perceived by the analysts and the machine learning scientists. Like, okay, this is much better than going through the raw data and having to analyze the data myself. Okay, I want more of these data sets, right? So we became like the data set provider for the rest of the organization. That on one hand. And then on the other side, we had this centralized structure for analytics and data science. And that the organization was realizing that was not working very well, that we needed to embed actually these data scientists, these data analysts into the business. So then we had some reorganizations, and these analysts were placed in cross-functional product teams. So their home team shifted from the team of data analysts or the team of machine learnings into the cross-functional team with a product manager, software engineers, UX designers, and now data. I think that this was very hard to sell to actually the leaders in the product and the tech, because it was like, no, now you need to budget for another headcount, which is going to be a data analyst. And they perceive, like, I have to go and now ask for more people for a different role when we already have a data organization. So it was like interesting conversations to have with executives in that area. But yeah, we managed. We were able to show that when you embed a data scientist and data analyst in a cross-functional team, and you have them working together for several months and quarters on a specific problem, right? Because it means that the data folks, they now own specialized business problems or opportunities. It works much better because, like, on one hand, you have the data sets. The product managers should learn how to query them and they should know how to access them. And this frees the analyst and the data scientist for being like a support person to the product manager, right? So the product manager is able to access the data by themselves in dashboards, in SQL, etc. And now the data analyst and the machine learning scientist or the data scientist, they can do something more advanced and they can do experimentation, they can do A/B testing, they can productionalize their own machine learning models, right? So it's like an analytic flywheel that everyone benefits. It's because no, it's like the whole team is more data fluent, and the data people knows and participates in how product is being built, like participating in product discovery, like relating all these activities perhaps into a product North Star or OKRs, and they are closer to product, which is where these things happen, right? And then product is learning a lot on how data works and what are the things that you need to take into account when you want to productionalize a machine learning model or solve a problem with machine learning, etc., etc. And for me, like 5 to 10 years ago, the product managers were not technical, let's say. And this is like a way they build these technical skills, right? I worked with PMs that went from not knowing what an A/B test is to actually like presenting results of an A/B test, like after a year or so, right? So this is the transformation, the journey that I've learned a lot. I wrote about in the book, and I think that companies that are growing in data, they will eventually go through this journey because they will find these bottlenecks and they will need to solve them.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. I've been writing down some questions that I want to dig deeper into. Yeah, one thing that you mentioned is ownership and having teams own the data that they produce. I think this is what you alluded to. So something I've been seeing in my career is that oftentimes the data people, they are in a way consuming the data that other teams already produced. So the data engineers, they don't own the data generating process. They just build pipelines and transformations and make it available for easy use downstream. So in your experience, how does the collaboration go between the data engineers or the data people and the backend engineers, who very often are much closer to the API or to the service that actually generates the data? And let's say that they are all responsible to it, but what's the interplay in that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that when it comes to data ownership in these growing companies, right, the end state should be like the cross-functional team to own both the transactional data and the analytical data, let's say, or like the analytical data or the data that you use to feedback the product, etc., which is easier said than done, right? The backend teams will not want to care about this, and I've encountered this many times. Like, for example, you are working as a machine learning scientist, and you see like, okay, I get this data from the backend. Let's say I would really, really, really benefit from a different type of a structure for this data, right? This is like very transactional. I would like maybe like adding one field or splitting things into rows or this type of things. Like and before, like when data is treated as a kind of a support and not part of the team, it's like, okay, then I don't have any other choice than do it myself, because if I request it, they will not do it because they are not incentivized. Of course, like they are not incentivized to do it. So then you start creating all these pipelines and code to transform the data into the analytical shape that you like, and it's maintenance that you are adding to a system that it will be bad for the system eventually, right? So, but if you have this data scientist in the team sitting next to the backend engineers, with a product manager that is able to prioritize the work on both the software engineer and the machine learning scientist, that's a different story, because then the machine learning scientist is in the team where this happens, right? So it's a much better place to make these things a reality. It's perhaps hard at the beginning, but you need to find ways to get these software engineers engaged with these type of problems and show them like, what about if you add this in the operational in your operational database, this will simplify my life, and then we will able to come full circle and implement this recommendation system that we have to do because it's the priority of the team, much more faster, much more cleaner, etc., etc. So I think that eventually these cross-functional teams should own both the transactional data and its replica into the analytical database. And sometimes you will have like very proactive backends engineers that they will not care about this. It's like totally fine. They understand, like, of course, this needs to be like this. Sometimes you will need to add this machine learning scientist on the team and work on this. Sometimes you will need to add a data engineer in the team because to handle these type of things. But at the end, and that's an important topic on ownership, I think that the ownership should be at team level, not individual level. So this the ownership of the data sets for recommendation, let's say this is a recommendations team, it's not the machine learning scientist, it's not the data engineer, it's not the backend, it's the team, right? And you need to have ways from a technical perspective, this ownership should be written down in the code somehow that the owner is the team. Because if you let the machine learning scientist to do the recommendation algorithm on his own, yes, we can put it into production. But when this person leaves or changes teams, etc., etc., like who owns that? Like it needs to be very clear from the very beginning that there is a team owning this. And in this type of companies, I think that the ownership is not the data science team or the chapter, data science chapter, it's the cross-functional product team focusing on solving a business problem or an opportunity. And it needs to be backed with some kind of technical, like it's like a YAML configuration, right? That's fine. But I spend many times like doing initiatives, like I think 2-3 times in my career, like, okay, let's stop and let's review every data asset, every data product, and assign an owner to it, which is a team, right? A team owning this. And then you clean up, etc. But then you start from fresh, from scratch. Like, okay, now this is how the ownership looks like. And you have to do that, like if teams change and there is a reorganization, etc. First thing they need to do as a data team, solve the ownership problem.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's one thing you mentioned is that, okay, so in this cross-functional team, in many companies, you'd have a product manager, you'd have maybe a designer, you'd have normally several engineers, maybe 2-3 backend engineers, 1 or 2 front-end engineers. But the thing is that very often you'd have just a single data person, whether he or she is a data engineer or a data scientist. And naturally, most of the knowledge about the, let's say, recommendation system or the machine learning model would sit with this person. So that makes him or her the owner of the hardcore machine learning or data stuff. It's difficult to have this data professional being the only data professional in this cross-functional team, because then, who is going to critically review your PRs? Who is going to challenge you on some topics and show you your blind spots in your methodologies? So yeah, how do you deal with single data professionals in a team?
Yes, it happens too often. I think that on the first as a first point, I think that we should have like the methods to make like everything that is being made in a team to be very well documented, easy to read, available, etc. Like that's for me, like sometimes it's not the case. It can go for the UX part also. It's the same for data. And I really, and then another thing on the other hand is like I'm very supportive of assigning more than one person to a task or to a product or a capability, let's say. I think that, for example, the more core teams that you have, or like the more data core teams that you have in your organization, probably you should have more than one data person. Like, for example, like recommender personalization team will have more than one data scientist or like a data science, data analyst, etc. Right? So you're trying to, well, here then you need to avoid that you don't create like a mean in the team, like that these data people can work well with UX, PMs, backend, frontend, etc. Right? So that's one challenge, but yeah, the PM is mostly responsible to make sure that doesn't happen. And then one of the things I've wrote about, and I have an article on this in my Substack, it's like what I call the mini data organization, because sometimes, and also now with AI or generative AI, etc., it's like a lot of the tasks that a data engineer, a data analyst can do can be automatized through an agent. So I think that the teams are going to be slimmer, right? Or even like, or bigger, but then tackle more things.
Yeah.
So if they are bigger but tackle more things, then it's the same case as before. But if they are smaller, then what I have seen working is this mini data organization where you have like a data analyst, at least a data analyst, a data scientist, and a data engineer that supports a department. And for me, a department, I define it as like at least 3-4 teams. And this is actually how we operate today at Manychat. We have analysts that are responsible for more than one team. And the teams that they are responsible of, they are close together, like in the same kind of area of responsibility, let's say. And then by having a team or like a small data team inside these departments, I think that this problem is less of a problem, right? Because you have more people, they have to document, etc., etc. And I think that's something that it came to me as a learning, in the sense that I used to believe like, okay, every cross-functional product team should have like a data analyst, a machine learning scientist, a data engineer. Like companies cannot afford. So it's something I mentioned in the book, is like you have to choose. It's like, okay, which teams are your more data intensive, right? Which the more data intensive teams put more resources there from data, and then you don't have this problem. And the least data intensive teams, then you can like play with like a small data team that belongs to this department. And I think that this mitigates quite a lot these problems.
Yeah. I think actually we combine a couple of your ideas of ownership, like team owning certain business problems on one hand, and then the other idea is having data professionals be part of one or more of these teams. This maybe solves indeed the problem of having a data professional isolated or siloed in this single cross-functional team.
Can I add something? Because I think that also it's important to have the chapter view, or the guild in some places. Like that the data analysts are not isolated in the cross-functional team. You still have a data organization, but it's very different from the one that we were used to have. Or you can have a data analytics manager, and we work like this at Oda. The data analytics manager is responsible for all the data analysts in the organization. Or like a handful, depending on how many analysts you have, you will have more managers. But basically, the data analytics manager can still be hands-on in one of these teams, and then have the people manager responsibilities for the data analysts, and also like making sure that the data analyst as a discipline, as a function, operates in excellence, like, or is a high-performing organization, and setting standards for A/B testing, or building, for example, the data visualization guidelines, how this needs to be done. I think that this is also important, and the same for ML and AI, right? So you can have still like machine learning managers that also like try to provide the common ground and for all the ML people in the organization, and they are responsible to organize like periodic demos to show like what all the different teams have been working on, hackathons, offsites, this type of things, right? And then I said before, like the home team for these data professionals is the cross-functional product team. That doesn't mean that they they have to have a relationship with other data folks. And usually it's this function of the data analyst manager, data science managers, or like even like the director of data has this responsibility.
Yeah. On one hand, it's challenging to be managing the data guild or the data chapter, because oftentimes people have their own, like their, let's say, main responsibilities, like they have to write the code, they have to solve a problem, and then you might be creating this extra weekly meeting to learn about new things. But the thing is, without it, it's actually probably worse. So it's
yes, you need to find a balance.
Yeah, exactly. Something else that you mentioned is about the product managers. And indeed, in the past, product managers oftentimes have not been very technical. They don't come from an engineering background. And I guess with AI nowadays, they can obtain more technical knowledge than before. And another trend that I think we are seeing is that software engineers or team leads or tech leads take more and more of the product ownership and management responsibility, so that there are less product managers role. What do you think about this? What do you think about the role of the product manager?
Yeah, I think we'll need to see how this evolves. Right? I still think that not all the companies are going at the same speed as like the companies at the forefront of this, right? So there is still the need for product managers in many companies. One thing I touch upon in the book is the concept of this, like the product engineer. So I think that engineers that have more of this product mindset and product managers that have more of this engineering mindset, right? Like they merge, they blend into this product engineer role that has also been talked about in the industry, and is where like you have the responsibility of a problem to solve, an opportunity, and you have the skills to fix it, to build the features or do like the product discovery, the product delivery, etc., to end up building something that is able to solve this. I think that we are going more into that direction. This is going to reshuffle completely like the organizations as we know it. I think that still like the team is a good composition inside an organization, right? Like I think that having teams of these product engineers, it's maybe like a good thing, because the team gives like a roof to a problem, to a user problem to solve, etc. And then inside there, you can have like maybe the same number of individuals or a bit less, like maybe 3 to 5, but more people that is more cross function, right?
Yeah.
So they have knowledge, or they know how to use the tools for UX designing, for software development, for data analysis, etc., right? So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this develops, right? But maybe like people that when you had like a or if you had like a UX people, a UX person, a data analysis, and a backend engineer before, with a product manager, this same group of 4 people, they can do much more of their other tasks, or tasks that were only being done by the data analyst, like in the coming years, in the coming months, than before, and then they will kind of level up into like a same a skill set, and then everyone be an equal product engineer. Let's see how this is going to be evolving, right? But I think that the your background is going to be still relevant, and I foresee like people like building more product managers building, and then engineers with the product mindset building without product manager expertise. And maybe like to finish this, I think that PM, software engineering, etc. Like these are roles, right? So these roles can be fulfilled by different people or individuals. It's like you need to have the PM role. You need to have like the engineering role. You need to have like the design role or the analytical role. If in a very small software, this can be done by one person, fantastic. Right? And if in a big corporation you need the separation of roles in different persons, that's also something that I foresee like could still happen, right? And then in the middle, we will see how this converges. Or it could be like also like companies will just do more with the same people because of AI.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of think this is to go on a bit of a tangent. Some commentators, when they speak about AI, they say, yeah, AI is going to take the jobs of the programmers, of the engineers, because see, the program does it for you. But I think throughout history, what we've seen is that such technologies, they don't lead to less people working using these technologies, but they lead to the people working with these technologies producing a lot more. So having a lot more, many more products, many more services, and that in itself then drives more demand for people working on these things. So that's I think, more positive and more realistic take on the situation. Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. Something else that you mentioned is kind of making data as a central part of the company, of the organization. And I think you say something along the lines of treating it as a product driver, not as a support function, the data one. But how do you go from a company where data is just like an afterthought, and maybe the company is a small company, let's say less than 50 people. How do you go from here to a more data minded organization? Do you need to have let's say at least one person from the executive team who is really on board with this and is driving for this data initiative, or can you do it maybe as an individual, just as a single data engineer there trying to drive this change from within? Yeah, what is your experience in that?
It's a good point. It's the meat of the book.
Yeah.
I think that executive support is non-negotiable. Like it needs to be
Mm,
there. You can do things without it. As a data professional, you can do things, and I can touch upon this. But like, if you want like a full transformation, let's say, you need executive support, and it
mhm,
could be from your head of data or director of data and analytics. It could be from your head of product, head of technology, etc. But they need to be convinced about this. They need to be
mhm,
convinced that like having a data organization that is siloed, that is only used by the rest of the organization to ask things retrospectively, this is not going to work. Especially, I mean, if you are 50 people and you foresee to be 50 people in 3 years, maybe yes, it's going to work, right? But if you are planning to grow and you are planning to be like 100, 150, because like the
mm,
business is going well, etc., this is not going to work. It's not going to scale. That's my experience. So then you need to in the book, it's split in two
mhm,
different strategies. So the first strategy that you need to implement, and which you need support on, is to have these cross-functional, high-performing teams that are able to. They are data-driven and they are able
mhm,
to own outcomes from your organization, like increasing by X specific number of metric, etc., etc. So that's one part. It's what we have commented about embedding data professionals, etc. And you
mhm.
need executive support, is that they buy this way of working, maybe because they have worked like this before in other companies, etc., or they are convinced because of reading a book or watching some uh, uh, attending some course, or because people has told them about that. So that's one thing. And the other pillar I mentioned in the book is treating data as a product. So when you do this distribution of responsibilities, and we touch upon this also, is like you need to document things very well. You need to, like any data asset or like
Mhm,
dashboard, machine learning model data set can be used by anyone in the organization, right? So it needs to be discoverable, it needs to be documented, you need to have examples, etc., etc. So this is like the other pillar that I present in the book. So these two pillars, they form like the journey and the strategies to transition from data as a support function to treating data as a product driver, which is the title of the book.
mhm.
Having said that, like yes, you need executive support on this. If you are an individual and you don't have this executive support, my advice would be to start very small in your team. What you can do in the next couple of weeks to go through this way of working, right? And it could be like documenting more, making the data sets more discoverable, trying to find, for example, people that is duplicating work, right? So it's like
Mm,
showing the thing is like, this team is doing this data set, this other team is doing this other data set. Maybe we as a data platform team should provide a single data set, and then them consuming this, right? So, and you don't only need to do this type of things. You need to tell that this is happening, and then
Yes.
you will buy. You will as you go along. The same with the cross-functional embedding, right? It's like I'm a data analyst, I'm a machine learning scientist. It's like I'm working in a project mode as a support to this team that wants to build a machine learning model. It's like this is like we spend 1 quarter on this, it's not going anywhere. Like what is the problem that we are trying to solve? Which metric are we going to move? Like which idea are we actually like trying to fulfill? Which opportunities is this even solvable with ML? Can we use a simpler thing?
Yeah.
If not, then okay, then we can use ML. But then okay, let's validate that this is a good solution that works well. And I think that if you want to do this, it's very hard to do as a internal contractor sometimes, like as a support, So you need to be embedded in the team. You need to spend like 1-2 quarters inside the team to do that. And this is how in the past for me I was able to sell this framework and this model, because it was like kind of, it's the only way that we are going to have a competitive advantage. If we don't, like, we are going to never implement any machine learning model or advance on the data maturity. No, we will never have a data driven kind of product.
Yeah. And so you said that executive support is vital, and I was just curious, what do you think about, let's say you're in a company where there is no executive support? Do you think it's worth trying to convince some of your executives to actually become data supporters, or do you think that's too difficult to do?
I think that you should try. Thinking that this model is not for every company, right? This model is for growing companies that have like a small to medium data team, right? If you are a small company, being in this support function, it might be okay, right? Or a highly regulated industry, or I think that it's worth trying to convince your executives or one of them, only if you feel the bottlenecks. If it's working well, why would we change, right? But if you feel these bottlenecks, like it's hard, data is hard to find, it's not discoverable, or like you working on machine learning and you need to, like, you cannot put anything into production because of this problem. It's like we need to change. And yes, I tried in the past. I think people should try. So I encourage people to try. And then if you cannot do it, then it's your decision.
But were you successful when you tried? Did you convert somebody?
Yes, we converted people. I would say, like, on the other side, like if you work in a big organization, you have a lot of people to compete. Fortunately, I had an executive that was convinced about this and it was helping, but still it was very hard for me, for him to do this talking and working, because you have to convince one person at a time, or at least that was our situation, right? So we went to, and we used the framework I explained before, of going to like the most data fluent, or the most, the team that needed data the most. Is like, you need the data people in your team. You need data persons. Don't you see? Like, it's like every quarter we are discussing the same, and we are not progressing fast enough for what our competitors are doing, or like where we need to be. Like, you need people in you need to. The problem is that this executive is like, but I don't know how to manage data people. I've never managed data people. I don't know like anything about this. It's like they are afraid of adopting data as part of their organization. They are very comfortable with product, with engineering, capacity planning, prioritization, road mapping, etc. How do we do product discovery with data and A/B testing? It's like it's a new territory. It's like, and you need to think about it, understand, and then say, okay, well, we are going to handhold you for the first quarter. Let's do this together, and then after that, you will be able to do it on your own with the help of the data analyst and machine learning people that we are borrowing to your organization. That eventually they will become part of your organization. So yeah, and then the problem is that when you have done that with one executive, you need to go to the other ones. It's like at some point it permeates, and it's you don't have to do that. Or if you are lucky and you start in a company where you have this executive support, and then it's much easier, right? But for what I've been talking with people that I have interviewed for the book, etc., like there are a lot of people still in this where data is treated as a support function, right? So hence the writing.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think it's a really important thing to discuss. And the other thing is you mentioned the roadmap and company goals and OKRs and KPIs. And you might even go as far as saying, you can't have this goal driven company without data. So you need to have the right data to measure the right things, to know whether you're making progress. I still think a lot of companies nowadays work on features based on s- just some mentions by I don't know, an investor or some company or like some client. They don't do proper prioritization, like how much effort is needed in this area versus how much benefit there will be in the future. They don't measure what's the success of a feature, meaning were there a lot of users using it? Did they solve their particular problems, etc., etc. And I think it's also a bit about perhaps not having this experimentation or maybe statistical mindset that a lot of companies are struggling with, and that's also why I was asking about whether you think it's possible to change some people's, in a way, worldviews, the way they think about problems. But yeah, so maybe on the topic of KPIs and OKRs, I think this is an area where the data as a product driver is also very important, right? It helps you measure these things.
Yes. Yeah, a few comments on that because I think that when you are starting a product, I think it doesn't make sense to do a lot of A/B testing or like a data-driven feature. Like there is that there is features that you need to build.
Yeah.
There is like go and build them, right? So like I'm not advocating that everything should be A/B tested, etc., etc. Perhaps not everything at the beginning, but the problem is that when you have your product mature up to a point where it's good, it's being used, etc., etc., but then you need to start tweaking small things or like adding small things here and there. Like you want to optimize a bit further your product. This is, I think, where all the tool set, like the data tool set, comes in with experimentation, etc. And here also you can start also using OKRs and outcome driven measurement. One of the things that I found is like in my career, when setting goals, for example, you start with output goals. So build this feature, build this dashboard, build a machine learning model, for example, right? It's like build a machine learning model is an output goal based goal. You need to aim to go into a situation where your goal is to increase conversion rate by 2%. And then you do that how, right? So this is the objective. Like, how do we do that? It's like it could be like a simple rule sets. It could be like optimizing for a small thing. It could be like a machine learning model, etc. Like no, like this is like a more outcome driven mentality on setting goals and using data for that. And data analysts and data scientists should should help there. One of the challenges I encountered doing this transition is that we don't know the baseline. It's like you want to set outcome-based OKRs, and at the beginning of the quarter you say increase a conversion from X to Y. And trust me, I've finished more than one quarter, and at the end of the quarter, this X and Y were still X and Y, were not numbers, because we didn't know X. No, is like we don't know which is the current conversion or like whatever metric we are using. So for me, one advice I followed at Oda and Manychat and is like, okay, first you need baselines. And I think that here the data team can help a lot, like help set baselines for your North Star, for your metric tree. Each team should own a set of metrics that they own and they are responsible for improving. For these metrics, if it's 1 or 5 or whatever, like know the baseline, the numbers drilled down by very specific dimensions, etc., etc. It's like this is your area of responsibility, right? So one of the things that you need to do before fancy A/B testing, etc., is like know the baseline. And then when you know the baseline, you will be able to set goals to improve this. and you'll be able to do product discovery that or like A/B or one example is A/B testing that will help us move this metric, right, or show how this metric can be moved. So it's a lot of iterations and learning when setting goals. But I definitely believe that the data folks in an organization should be at the forefront of this change and moving from outcomes from outputs to outcomes.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a nice part of the of working in the data team is because you are very close to the product and influencing these product decisions. It's very interwoven to what you do. Perhaps in other roles like a backend engineer or front engineer is maybe less obvious. But yeah, looking at the numbers as a data professional, that lends itself well to helping product make better decisions. So you said first, if you're a small company, start building the features. Don't do A/B testing as the first thing. But of course, as you grow, you need to start. If you want to improve something, first you have to measure it because otherwise, how do you know if you're improving it? Do you have kind of a mental model on the size of the company and how the transformation should happen in the data as a product as the company grows? Maybe let's say with the size of company, you have X data folks, you have these frameworks to measure. Yeah, if you can share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that with less than 10 data folks, the support function can work well. And I've interviewed some companies that they were happy with that model, and they were doing something very interesting, which is they built some kind of reporting interface or like set of capabilities and products. And with the technologies that we have today, it's very easy to do and very easy for the stakeholders to consume all this at all levels of detail and granularity. And they were like handing this off to the business team or the product team, let's say, and they managed to get these teams to be very autonomous with the data. And then they were focusing on another part of the business, and they were doing the same, right? So it can work at that scale. What I perceived, based in my experience, people that have interviews, like when you are past 10 people, a mix of machine learning, data analysts, data engineers, 10, 15, things that you start finding these bottlenecks, right? And you need to adjust. So for example, currently in my organization, we have distributed the data analysts because it's the bigger team, right? We are 25 data people, and the data analysts are distributed. For the data engineers, they are still centralized, right? So we are they are owning the data platform. They are owning the core data sets, let's say, that the data analysts later use, right? But we have experimented very little in 1-2 cases of let's provide a specific data engineer to this team that is solving a specific problem. We have one case, which is anti-fraud. And for this team, we have a data engineer, but the rest, they are working all as part of the data platform, doing platform work and data sets, right? And now for the needs that we see in the business, etc., we want to scale that. And we are actively hiring for actually data engineers, more with this profile of analytical engineer to be part of these cross-functional product teams. And the idea is to place more of these profiles in these teams so that they can help the data analyst in the department. They can help machine learning in the department and prepare the data sets to help with the data, etc. Right? So it's not that you have a blueprint on the target state and you just implement that. It's like, okay, yes, we have a blueprint on the target state and more or less like how we know the things can look like. But then like the journey is like, okay, which team or area is more important? Are they well equipped with machine learning, data analyst, data engineer? Let's solve that first, and then the rest we can solve from a central perspective, right? So it's a journey. We know we cannot support everyone from the central team. We need to embed, but then like with embedding, especially like, for example, for more data engineering, it's very challenging because then you have a data engineer that is building data sets, etc. It needs to be well governed, needs to be well documented, the processes and the tooling, etc. So you cannot decentralized too early also in each function. You need to know when is the right time.
Yeah. You started kind of speaking about this topic by mentioning already a team of data people of size 10. So I think that's already quite a lot. That's a large company. So if the data folks are 10, what do you think would be the range of the whole company in terms of headcount?
Yes, I think it could be from 200 to 500 total headcount. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So these are these would be kind of like scale ups or very large startups. So they're already quite mature companies. But nowadays you also have a lot of companies which are small and their products are still very widely used. They're like, I can think about that. Linear is one such company, but many others. Like I think Cursor, of course, the maker of the IDE. They're such a small company, and yet they're making such a big impact in the industry. So you can.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. A nice segue to one of the things I mentioned in the book, which is I foresee kind of the data organization that to disappear in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like is the same that we discussed before, right? It's about the roles. So yes, you have the roles to fulfill, but you will not need these roles to be specifically fulfilled by a data analyst, a data engineer, or a machine learning scientist. Like it's being expanded, right? The amount of roles that somebody can take. Or it could be like a data analyst could to do a PM job, right? So it's the other way around. It can also happen. Or as a machine learning engineer, you could be like transition or doing more of a software engineer kind of role, right? For these smaller companies, I think that it's I mentioned this in one of the articles I published. Like they don't even they are not starting with a data team, right? Data is everywhere in these companies. Data is everywhere. Data is the lifeblood of the product. It's like it needs to, I think that in these situations we need much more cross-functional people, like people that can do many roles well. The principles still apply, and the strategies, I think, they still apply. Like data as a product is important. Like even if, like, when you're using data, you need to treat it in a way that other people will be able to find it. It's documented. It's easy to onboard into it. These type of things. It's secure. It's etc. It's compliant. And then on the more like the team side, it's the same. The problem is that the good thing is that in these companies, they don't do the transition, like they are already in that state, right? Because of the people that have been starting this, like they are already in this mentality that we need to do product discovery, we need to do, like, we can have outcome driven OKRs, and we have a set of metrics. We know our North Star, etc. They are people. These are companies that they are jumping ahead into this stage. And I hope that more companies would do that. Would do that because of the benefits this brings. And I think that's also like a reason for the book to exist. Is like, okay, let's train these people into this methodology so that like the next company that they start, they can already like work in this.
I like this long-term mentality. This also kind of think is related to what you mentioned in the beginning of the conversation about it's the responsibility of every individual to kind of manage their time, and maybe if it works for you to have this blocked deep work slot, then do that, and think about maybe about the bigger picture. Don't think about the tasks right in front of you. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the last question or topic I wanted to chat about is Gen AI and how you think that influences the data and product functions, and maybe even as a software engineer, what changes have you seen yourself, maybe in your day-to-day workflow, things like this.
Yes, I think that Gen AI has been the best editor I could have for the book. Like used a lot Claude for getting feedback on chapters, and it's really good. Like yeah, and I also use it on my day to day to spark ideas, generate ideas, to research, summarize the stuff, make interview notes. I use Cloud Code for that, and then we are using it also for developing, right? And it's a bit challenging always, because I think that we could be doing it more, But sometimes it feels like we are stuck in this old way of working, and we don't take it in our day-to-day as much as we could. And one thing that we did last year at Manychat was have a hackathon. So we did an AI specific hackathon, and with a couple of days we had a Slack bot that could translate natural text into an SQL query and then prompt the result. And it was like, yeah, we should have more of this, right? So it was a good initiative that we could do that. And now we have it available. Like after a week, it was kind of productionalized in a first iteration. Yeah, we are seeing like people from outside of the data function to that is using it. And yeah, it's something, it's a start. We wish we could be doing more for the internal productivity gains. I have to say that on the product side, our product, like it has like an AI part, and we have like AI features, let's say, that people can use. And this is also like we need it. It's like what we are mentioning before, right? That we have to have AI features, and this will, now we are optimizing them based on metrics, etc. I think that companies need to split a bit, like what is that you can build for your customers, and what is that you can use internally when it comes to generative AI, no? And they are different paths and different ways of working.
Yeah, definitely. I think most people, most engineers nowadays are confessing, or let's say they're like, very few engineers nowadays would be saying, okay, I don't want to use any Gen AI. I'm better than this. I'm a self-taught software engineer, and I do everything in my head, and I want to type it out. I don't want to have this auto tap. But I think more and more people are indeed seeing how powerful AI is becoming and are using it. But then on the product side, the temptation is a lot of people try to put AI where it doesn't belong, like maybe in the front end. Perhaps you don't need a AI workflow to onboard. Perhaps just box, like tick boxes are good enough. So yeah, definitely two different problems to think about.
It will calibrate with time, right? Now AI feels like a different part of the product, or like a new addition that is a bit strange still, right? We are not used to it, but I guess that with time we will be much more integrated to it, and we will not be able to live without. The same way that I believe that when we started having like a products, personalized products, like a personalized homepage of a newspaper, or like a shop, a personalized shop, etc. Now I cannot imagine like entering a shop that I go often and in the app, like, and not have like a personalized kind of preview or customizations, like, no. So it's it was impossible 10 years ago. So yeah, I think it will happen a bit of the same.
Okay, great stuff. I think this is kind of a good spot to wrap up our discussion. Is there anything that we didn't cover and you kind of want to talk about?
No, I think we covered a lot during this.
Yeah. I also agree that we covered a lot of different topics. Before I let you go, you can tell our listeners what is the best place for them to reach you. I know that you've been writing a book. I think you also have a place where you write your articles. So yeah, feel free to share that.
Yes. So yeah, people can find me on LinkedIn and Substack. It's dataproductdriver.com. And the book is called Data as a Product Driver, and it will come out in April 2026.
Oh, great! So just in a few months' time, yeah.
Yes.
I'll be sure to buy it, and hopefully, I'm not sure if you're making it available as an audiobook, but maybe that's something.
Not initially, but probably later. Yes.
Yeah. But definitely, I think this is such an interesting topic that still many companies find challenging, and there's a big return on investment in this area. So yeah, great that you are writing a book on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks so much for being on the podcast, Xavier, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the AI and ML conversations with myself, Xavier Botev. If you want to support the show, please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. In addition, please follow the podcast on Spotify and Apple and share it with the people you know. Thank you.